I'm still going to retweet it real quick. But no morning banter.
Yeah,
Banterless.
let's just make money for people.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that the point?
That is the point.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Wall Street Beats. I'm Steve Lamar, joined today by our stock technicals and momentum pro, Kevin Bakes Baker, and our value and growth pro, Robert Marcin. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I assume you guys have green socks on or green underwear on because I can't see your green. We're going to talk some Koru Medical, maybe. I saw a good guide. I'll bet Mr. Marcin has something to say about that, and maybe he'll give us an update on one of my longs, Saragon.
Yeah.
And then we'll hand the baton over to Bakes and talk about what's on his mind on the technicals this week. All right, Mr. Marcin, handing the baton to you, sir. What say you on Koru?
I've got two stocks that have been digesting for a little bit of a time, and I think have some catch upside to the bull market and risk on speculative nano small cap stocks that I like so much. First one is Koru Medical, and I recommended Koru here in the low twos, 220, 230, 240, 250, and own it about 235. It's my biggest single position. So people understand that. It's over 10% of my long book, which is a nice position. Um,
That's a
and,
big position for a small cap.
and it is. And when it tripled for me and got to
Not really big.
is $6 and 60 cents. I didn't even think about selling the stock because my expectations for the next 5 years are for a massive growth spurt in the company. And the company makes subcutaneous drug delivery systems. So you put the drug in plasma, you put it in a vial. You put the vial into their pump. It's maybe the size of a fist or fist and a half, and this puts it through a tube and a needle into your stomach over 30 minutes. It's a high volume um, needle, so it's not something that you want to do by hand. You can do it by IV. If you do it by IV, it takes 3 hours. So 30 minutes, 40 minutes versus 3 hours. You can do it in your house instead of the hospital or the IV center. And so it's cheaper, it's faster, it's more convenient, it's better for the patient because they could do stuff at home in general. If they need to go to a clinic for like a cancer treatment, they could go to a clinic that doesn't have all the hassles of dealing with a hospital venue. So drug companies have figured this out, and they've actually last year started making drugs that are aqueous drugs. They're liquid drugs that are going to be delivered for the first time, not by IV, but by subcutaneous delivery systems. And so far, it's a small niche. It's a few $100 million with a few specialty drugs that need to be delivered through that. It can't be made into solids, and it can't pass through your stomach, which would destroy the drug, the stomach acids. That's why they do it this way. It's why they do it with IVs. But this is just a better way to do it than an IV. So there's hundreds of new drugs in trials that have the subcutaneous delivery system in their trials, which is nuts because before, as I said, this company has, I think, 9 drugs they're involved with, and they have 9 new ones coming in the next 2 years, and many more coming after that. So it's a company that is could face a tidal wave of demand over the next 5 years, and it's it grew 2% last year. It's cash flow neutral. They're investing heavily to grow. It's slightly cash flow positive. They don't need to raise equity. They have cash to operate the business, and it's. I think they can grow 25% a year for the next 5 years. They're still a small
So
company.
is the reason for the guide because of the pipeline of new drugs using this delivery mechanism?
No, the guidance was disappointing for me. It
Was it?
was,
Okay.
yeah, it was like six. It was like 18 and a half or 19% at the midpoint, which would be a slowdown. And I think this year should grow faster than last year, which was 22 or 22%, I think. And next year, I think should be faster than this year because of the way the new drugs come online, right?
Right.
So the guy is fine. It was conservative because the current CEO sprung on us that she wanted to retire after 5 years, and the COO, who had been hired and was being groomed to replace her, took the position over. It was about a year or two faster than the board, I believe, or the shareholder base thought was going to happen because she had indicated that. But we think the guide was conservative because there's a new CEO and he wanted to have a low bar to beat and raise.
Makes
But
sense.
they in the U.S. for this product, they have like 50% share. Last year they went from 10% to 20% share in Europe. Europe is just going to this product in waves because they invented these things called pre-fill syringes instead of vials that you then put in a syringe. So Europe is going pre-fill, and this is the only company that's approved for use with the pre-fill syringes with the two big drug makers that specialize in these types of drugs. So I have 52 million in sales, maybe up from 41 last year, and then over 60, 63 to 64 next year. So the market cap is around 198 million now, 200 million, and there's 9 million net cash. So it's under 3 times revenues for 25% growth, and at scale, 65% gross margins. They're doing about 62, 63 now. So this is as if I've ever found a business that I want to own for 10 years or 5 years with so much growth ahead of it that's not being appreciated by the stock market and valuation, this is one. So a lot of, as Bakes knows, and does a great job of convincing value guys like myself and Berna to hold on to stocks longer than we would because the charts look good. Here's a company that I had a considerably higher profit in the stock. They have not missed since that stock hit that 6 and change. They've only beaten and raised since that price, and at that price, I didn't even think about selling it. So I think in 3 years, this is a $10 stock easily. And if the market gets really excited about it, it could be higher. These things, they have peers that trade at 8 times, 10 times sales. This thing is 3 times sales. I'm using next year's sales. So I'm cheating a little bit, but the very high visibility to this business and its sales growth. So
Okay.
I'm a big fan. I'm a buyer of this dip down here. I don't think it'll dip much more. But if you put a longer term chart up, I think it's going to go back to its old high, which I think 5 years ago might have been double digits. That's my price target for the stock. And
Are they a takeover waiting to happen? West Pharmaceuticals or somebody like that?
Becton Dickinson most likely.
Okay.
But yes, they are. They don't want to sell yet because they have a growth spurt ahead of them. But in 3 to 5 years, it would be highly likely as this business explodes for the primary competitors in the needle and syringe market to want access to this company. And it's still not a big market cap. For them, $1 billion deal is nothing. So if the stock, is a 5-bagger for us, if Becton Dickinson pays $1 billion for this business when they're doing it, maybe they'll pay 600-700 million, 800 million from 200 million, but it's still a triple or quadruple for us if they decide to acquire this company. So
And
That's what
Robert,
I'm.
what does the competitive landscape look like? Are there other people? Has this been too small a market for anybody else to really care about?
Absolutely. Exactly. It's been too. It's only private companies and small. I don't even think there's another publicly traded company that does this. There's companies that do electronic pumps, wearable pumps. There are delivery systems that compete, but this is actually a mechanical pump. It's very easy to use. The patients, a lot of them are senior citizens, so it's a product that's made for today's patient. By the way, 70% of the business is the consumables that the delivery system, the needle, the tubing and the needle. So they get locked into these customers for life. Now, when they go to cancer treatments, it'll only be for the duration of the cancer. But that's the big new market. They found that oncology people are using these off label for in clinics in Europe to deliver oncology treatment drugs. So yeah, it's and that would double or triple the TAM overnight and dramatically increase their upside over the next 3 to 5 years if they get that. So I think it's $100 million business in 3 to 4 years, trading at 5 or 6 times sales. So you're at 500-600 million, which is from a $200 million market cap is a triple. So if it's today, foreign change, it's a $12 stock in 3 years.
And
It
they've
still
got
has a lot
plenty
of.
of cash. Balance sheet's solid. They've got plenty of cash.
Well, they're not cash rich, but they have enough to operate the business without ever raising capital. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So,
So Bakes,
Ceragon, the quick
chart.
blurb on
What's the chart look like?
Ceragon.
What do you think?
Yes, the quick blurb on Ceragon. It's the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona is the biggest trade show in the world, and they got back a couple weeks ago, and the CEO said by far it was their best trade show ever, including chief technology officers. So the highest technology people in the operating, company's food chain like AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, those kinds of companies. They had more meetings with CTOs from global tier 1 and 2 operators than they ever had combined in the past. So hopefully, now that could be 4 versus 1 or 2. I don't know what the number is, but the point is that they have this new chip. It's called a Neptune. It's an SoC. The industry competes with them with a modem that's 11 years old, designed by Max Linear, and is on the end of its life. And these guys are putting together products that do functions for wireless telecommunications that you can't do today, and it's taking longer for these tier 1 operators to buy into it, test it, and place large orders. But I would expect there to be multiple large name brand telephone operating companies globally, the U.S., the Europe, and India, announcing new deals with this company by the end of this year. So there finally is the story that I had, the growth story I had for owning this stock, seems to be ahead of us in the precursor to POs. So they're involved with a lot of RFPs and proof of concept trials with at least 5 to 10 companies, only a couple of which are existing clients. So that would be big news if they could close these guys. So it's all about the purchase orders from here hitting the income statement in the next 2 or 3 quarters.
So Bakes, pull up the chart on Ceragon while we're on that CRNT, and let's. Yeah, that's been a
Talk
tough
about a
one.
base. Think
Flat line.
about it. Think about it as a base. So when it moves, right, it's the same
Thing looks dead.
duration of the base.
I think this is a decent base, and I want to see it above 246 and 284, and then you start challenging higher levels. This is the weekly, back here at that's the 284 level, but eventually, I don't know, 336 is the level back here 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean,
Can you go out a little longer? Give us a 10-year.
sorry.
Can you give us a 10-year?
Yeah, here's the monthly, and this goes back 25. So
There you go. You haven't missed a bull market in this piece of crap so far. I tell that to the CEO every time I talk to him. I say, look at the 10-year chart. You owe shareholders, buddy.
Indeed, you do. That's been dead money. Dead money. All right, so you like
does the
the
next
story?
quarter turn it around?
Excuse
Say
me?
again, Bakes?
Does the next quarter turn it around?
The next quarter is seasonally their softest quarter, and I don't
Right.
think it does. Yes,
Okay.
we still have time.
Okay.
Now the street they guided very, the street took that comment and did not appreciated the nature of the comment. So there's not a big growth estimate. It might even be flat in sales year over year. But for them to hit the year numbers with the slow start, there needs to be 20% growth by the end of by the back half of this year. So
Okay.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they beat by a little, but it's not going to be, these guys are starting to kill it. That's going to require Q3 or 4 if we're lucky, Q3, and if we're not lucky, maybe first quarter of next year. So,
all right. And how about Koru Bakes, KRMD?
I'm struck by this 4 level. I mean, it's below the 200-day, but you can't, I'm picking nits a little bit. I don't want to see it spend any time below 4 meaningfully. I mean, that's
right.
decent support that goes back to 5 years ago, 2021. This is the daily, and the volume is starting to perk up. The fact that it didn't like the earnings call, I don't like, but maybe Robert explained why that is. And that makes all the sense in the world to me. CEOs don't want to come in with a high bar; they want a low bar. And maybe now they pull you aside at different conferences and say, "Wink, wink, nudge, nudge." We're really going to be 20% plus.
Right. That's what they did last year too, by the way. So that's what.
Yeah. So this sounds intriguing to me, especially given, this. I've been involved in healthcare for a long time, and my takeover antenna shows up here, and I mentioned West, he mentioned Becton Dickinson. So, maybe they have a year of profitability, and someone says, "We'd like that now. Thank you very much," and we'll put it on our shelf and in our Salesforce's bag. Makes sense.
And from someone who's been doing this a very, very long time, this is his largest position. That says a lot about the work he's done on it and what he thinks about the future upside. So, hat tip to Mr. Marcin for digging in and holding on to this thing for so long, staying with it.
No, it's a champ. It's a champ.
All right, Mr. Baker, what else are you looking at for us this morning?
Well, and I
We'll take a break from talking about oil.
To new members, yeah, I'm not talking about oil. That's we've beaten that horse to death. But to new members, anytime that we talk about an idea from our partners, I put it in my system and I look at it every damn day. And so now it's hundreds. And what caught my eye today was Robert's Mtron, MPTI. And I read the description and I go, high performance communication, control, SATCOM, radar, electronic warfare, and guided munition. And I said, while this stock has acted well, I would have thought it would act even better. But I do like the relative strength here at 92, taking out the high. The volume is kind of anemic. So, they're going to be at Sidoti tomorrow, and I'd love to hear what they have to say. We're right up this 71 level. If it takes that out, you've got a new all-time high. Everybody's making money, and you go significantly higher. And if you want to, play the game of measuring the triangle, you could have another $30 in this stock, which makes all the sense in the world, given that we're bombing people, for the next, 2 weeks at least. So I guess that my question I like it. I'm just surprised it's not acting better. And maybe it's the next quarter where they get substantial reorders and the stock blows out. Robert, what do you think?
Oh, it's in the right place at the right time, and I think they said at least a third, if not more, of their revenue is in like consumables. So when you build a tank, you sell the tank once. When you build a missile, you fire. You fire it once, and that's all you have. It you can't reuse it. So it's a consumable in warfare is ammunition, and they're in the RF and the guided part of the guided missiles systems and the telecommunications parts and the radar jamming and all that electronic warfare that's taken over for boots on the ground and
Mm-hmm.
tents, and conventional munitions. So yes, it's in the right place. They do expect to have a very good year. I am very optimistic. It's a decent sized position for me. I've traded it in the past, and I'm holding on to it because I believe in 2 years, 3 years, they're going to double the business. This is another $50 million company on its way to 100 million in a couple few years. They're trying to do a deal, which would be very accretive. They're circling a couple of small companies that fit very well with their business, and it's just a matter. The gating factor, Bakes, is not their capacity. It's the capacity of the major, you know, prime defense contractors to build these missiles. Someone said
Okay.
that we have one product that we build. It takes like a month to build one. We build 12 a year or some crazy shit. So, what we need to do is ramp up our ability to mass produce these missiles without all the bells and whistles that the US military over in its effort to over engineer and over design stuff do. And really, that's where the drone market comes in, and these guys make it into drones and satellites as well. So yes, it's in the right place at the right time. Trump had the executives from the five largest defense companies into the White House, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, not exactly sure, where he pleaded with them and bullied them and, just beat the heck out of them to increase manufacturing capacity for these kinds of products. We don't necessarily need more platforms. We need more missiles for sure.
We need more ammo.
We need more ammo.
I've highlighted here. This is what a breakout looks like, and I'm struck by the fact that there was no mention of the Iran conflict in January, and so this stock sniffed it out. There was no earnings around. Get out of here. There were no earnings around, and it takes off on big volume about three times normal. I want to see that happen here at the 68.50 level, and I certainly want to see it take out the 71 level, this all-time high, and that seems very likely to me given what I see and hear from Robert. So this is another Marcin winner that I think is getting ready to reaccelerate to the upside shortly.
Yep, very very under the radar. Nobody's talking about this name for sure. But they might soon be if this thing starts taking out new highs.
I originally bought it because I was worried about China going into Taiwan, so I had it as my Silicon Motion hedge. It's the one stock that if
Yeah,
China takes Taiwan, I would think would double in about 3 days. So
Yeah.
I think China's taking notes on Iran right now and maybe reconsidering that, but we'll see.
hopefully,
Um, The next one I have, and my title for this is Facebook to face plan. I know they changed the name to Meta, but this to me, especially on the monthly, I mean that's a head and shoulders top right there. Left shoulder. I can't draw a curved line, so I can't do the shoulder. Here's the head,
yeah, right
and
shoulder. Yep.
and here's the right shoulder, and that's about as That's Edwards and McGee stuff. That's like a textbook that I read when I started getting into technical analysis and needed a life and a hobby. But the relative strength has deteriorated significantly, and I'm going to tie this into a few things. The We had this gap up on the earnings report that looked encouraging. I mean, that was a pretty impressive report. Apparently, up 11% doesn't dazzle me for a 20 PE stock. That's just me. But you see it close this gap, which tends to happen. You tend to close gaps. Then you close it to the downside here 3 trading days later. And, that just looks problematic to me. Um,
Yeah.
the We're already below the 200-day moving average right here. The 200-day is just starting. If you have to squint, but trust me, the 200-day moving average is turning down again, and nothing good happens below the 200-day. It's kind of like a nightclub at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I think that's what's going to happen here. And then you've got two levels to confirm what's going on here. 600. If that goes, you've got some problem. I suspect the down volume is going to pick up like it did back here on this first gap, and then 581.25. So this is a pretty big Mag 7 name. It is a big S&P name, and it's acting really, really badly. And so I wouldn't touch Meta. Here's my thought is, will they then act like they did when their move into the metaverse was greeted with Bronx cheers? Do they bring their capex substantially down to improve the stock price performance and scare the hell out of everybody that the AI capex investment is starting to wane? And that seems more and more likely given what I just described in this chart here.
Yeah, that looks like a good short candidate to me, Bakes. Not only would you not own it, but you might think about selling rips, or at least
Yeah,
buying some,
I didn't look at the short
buying
interest, but I
some
guess my suspicion is
$10
it's not that high.
it's yeah,
And then with the thing with shorts is, you don't have to. It isn't an all or nothing decision. You can press the short at 600, and then you can press the short at 581 when you
right.
know you're right, quote unquote. But
Yeah,
this monthly is really what kind of turned it for me. I always look at all the time frames. I mean, that's taken on water. And frankly,
Yep.
you look at the SPY and the Qs, which I know you do. They kind of look similar. They
Yep.
have they have a February 9th low and a March 9th low, and then we're threatening to take out. And I always look to see the whites of their eyes. I don't try to anticipate, but I'm watching these levels where they take out the March 9th low, the 200-day, and then the November of last year low, and you've got some problems. You've got some problems. I'm not convinced it's going to happen yet because we could declare victory in Iran and all bets are off. But right now, I think there's trouble in technology paradise.
Yeah, I agree, and I mean Trump pushing this G meeting back was a big signal for me as well that this war is not ending anytime in the immediate future here. He I think he's buying some more time to cut some grand deal with Xi when he's there, but it's too early to do it with everything that's going on globally.
Well, he's basically taken. I think this is the number, roughly 25% of their oil, and put it under U.S. influence. And so if she wants to play hardball, he says, well, Venezuela and China, they're ours now, and you're not getting
Right.
any oil anytime soon. And yes, they've got a stockpile, but they're rapidly going through that. So I think the chessboard has changed pretty dramatically. And listen, I'm not Ian Bremmer, and I don't study this all the time, but that's a pretty logical sequence of events, in my opinion.
Yep. All right, gentlemen, you want to wrap it up there?
Yeah, let's rock and roll.
Okay.
All right. Happy Tuesday. Follow us on wallstreetbeats.com, and we will see you back here tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
gentlemen. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you all. Thank you, Jen.